Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to another episode of this series in which we are going to interview another great and one of my favorite co-workers, Jacob Johnson. Hello Jacob, how are you doing?
Not too bad. Thanks for that great intro. Pleasure to be here.
That's awesome. So Jacob, hear from you. Let's start from the start, right? Like the whole journey. So when did you start interacting with TeejLab and what was your role?
So I don't remember the exact year. I'm gonna guess it was probably like 2019 or something. It was in my, I think, third year of university. So I got a research fellowship with TeejLab, and that was kind of where I started interacting and learning about APIs. Because before that, in university, I hadn't really even heard about what an API was. So that was kind of foreign. So that was the beginning of, I guess, my work with APIs.
That's awesome. I guess same for me, right? Like I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea what APIs were since I started. So
Yeah,
what was your like can you talk more about your engagement, about your role specifically, what you did
sure,
in the fellowship?
sure thing. So again, because I was new to the whole application programming interface thing, my role initially started with just exploring and playing with them, and then also integrating them into the API discovery platform at the time. Uh, and that's what I initially started doing. And then once I got more comfortable with that part of my fellowship, I also created my own API. It was sort of a wrapper, and then we got that hosted in the cloud. And it was an API for the weather surrounding the UNBC campus in Prince George. So it was kind of built on top of another API. They were called Cloud Storm or something at the time. And it basically would tell students what the weather was like for a particular day. You could call this API. It would give you the weather, and then it would give you suggestions for road conditions. And then it even had a thing that talked about, or like a section where it listed the number of students and how busy the parking lot would be. It was pretty cool for what I could put together as a research, I guess, intern.
That's awesome to hear. So tell us more about like the specific engagement and like the specific project with TeachLab.
Sure thing. So my project and interaction was mostly with Baljeet. So we did a weekly meetings where he gave me new tasks or cool APIs to investigate and look into it. So that's where I learned about things like OAuth 2 or just basic authentication. So the way different APIs work, token exchange and authorization versus authentication. So Baljeet was pretty cool in kind of mentoring me in that aspect. And that was that leading up part. And then we even participated in Research Week at UNBC, where we gave a kind of a demo on APIs, their uses, and a bit of research on the field that I guess TeejLab had done. So kind of inform maybe not the public, but the student body at UNBC on APIs and their use cases. Is there any other specifics about the fellowship or their project that you'd like me to go into more?
Uh, there was thing you mentioned about the projects, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think if I remember correctly, I think some people even started using that application, TeachLab application regarding the parking and stuff, right?
It was more of a work in progress, so I don't think I had any actual users. I did integrate it into the API discovery platform, so you could call it within there. So it was fully functional, but it was more of a prototype than any actual product that people were using.
Sounds good. Because I remember using it myself. I
Okay.
just like for fun, I was like, you know what, this is actually pretty cool. I want to learn more about this.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's an
Yeah.
API, so if you can find use for it, then absolutely go for it.
Yeah. And we even had like one of the projects, right, with this doing this engagement, which was um I think with Visual Studio Code or Eclipse as a plugin.
Oh yeah, so that was sort of what led up after my fellowship. So it was like started in 2019-ish and then continued on for like 21, 22. So I was with TeejLab for quite a while. And then after graduating, I joined as a full-time employee.
Yep,
So during kind of previous to that part of my kind of intern research fellowship thing, I did a creation and integration of a plugin for VS Code and Eclipse. So I think that's what you're kind of getting at there. And it was pretty cool. So that was the API discovery software library slash package scanner, which could discover or list vulnerabilities or other endpoints that software packages may be calling that you aren't aware of. So that I built a layer on top or a wrapper around it that you could download from the VS Code extension store and then also the Eclipse plugin store. And then you could integrate that with your IDE and then actually scan any of the packages that you were using. So it was pretty cool. And that was a huge learning experience for me because I had never done anything like that before. But working with TeejLab, they offered that opportunity. And then I was able to create this fairly useful piece of software, I think.
that's beautiful. That sounds you gained a lot of experience from that. That's amazing.
Tons, absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned about Baljeet and like working with other TeachLab members. What
Mm-hmm.
values, like in terms of training or mentorship or employment and other domains, like the specific engagement of fellowship and all these project created for you? What were the values they created?
Values. So tons, hard to list all of them when you're working with people, but one of the best was probably just the close knit and community of our team. So I think I was working with some our developers, so there was only like 4 or 5 of us, and we have our Slack, and so we can just work. And me just starting out fresh, if I didn't know something, I could just throw up a question into the chat or something, and then any of the other members would be able to answer it. And because we were a team and working towards the same goal, everyone would, work together to answer each other's problems. So it wasn't like one person being swamped with all the question. It was a back and forth interaction, which was kind of nice. So it's more of a relaxed environment where it's okay to ask questions and okay to maybe not know something. So it's a safe mental place, I guess you could say. Mental safety, I think, is a key thing in software development. You can kind of get overstressed or feel worried about not knowing something. But at TeejLab with our close knit team that was super cool.
That's awesome. So like asking questions and just be open and a bit vulnerable. It's
Absolutely.
nice, especially with the team, right? So let's talk more about the staff and the team. Like can you tell us more about the experience working with Teach Lab, and can you provide like even like a specific incident, right, which was
Mhm.
like very memorable for you during your engagement?
uh, so I'll well, I'll give this one. It's funny, but at the risk of making myself look like a weaker programmer. But um, bringing down our dev environment. So, that whole Git push sort of thing when you're first intern starting out, you feel like uh kind of nervous. You put in your change, you check it in, and then you put it up, and then all of a sudden the site's down. You're like, oh no, this is the end of the world. But that's what a dev environment's for. But when I was first starting out, it was kind of scary. But am I allowed to like name drop anyone that was like from our time working there, or?
Go for it. I think transparency is what one of the values I learned at Teach
Oh,
Lab. So hell yeah.
okay, sure thing. So it was just me working, and at the time, you might have been there. You might. I can't quite
I
recall, but
remember.
yeah. Uh, Antonio that was also working there. Steven. I think it was like a kind of more or less an all hands on deck sort of thing, just to try and help me figure out what I had pushed
Yep.
and done wrong. And everyone was totally fine with it. There was kind of like a ha 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 ha, Jacob, you brought it all down kind of thing in our Slack channel, but it's fine. There was like fake blame, but it was totally fine. And that was a cool process because then they kind of walked me through debugging and what I had gone wrong. And then so that was just a good experience about learning that it's okay to fail and then how to properly fix and find a solution when you're checking in code. Go back through some commit logs and stuff. So that was also learning for Git, but also how our whole programming and development, I guess, end-to-end process works.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. Like failure, there's this saying, right? Like failure is the chapter before success.
Yep.
So I think that's really memorable because I was also there at that time when it happened. We all
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 people were like just coming together, sharing our thoughts, sharing our learnings, and I think I was even younger than you when it came to
Mm-hmm.
experience. I was like, this was great for me. I was like learning so much. I
Yeah.
also learned how to debug and all those stuff. It was beautiful to watch like whole team
Yeah.
come in, like bring in this synergy, this energy of openness, and like be don't be afraid of failure,
Yeah.
and like we all work together. We are just one team. We are like everyone is together.
And then also the expertise like was displayed too with like solving the problem like everyone. So that was cool. It was probably good for you to see me fail first. So there was less pressure for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
You're welcome for that.
Yeah. We all have been there. I think everybody will be there or have been there when they like brought the dev down. Happened to me. So
Yep.
cheers.
Cheers.
So what was your experience working with TeejLab's technology? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and can you provide any of those incidents in which you were like, wow, this is mind blowing. This is amazing.
Absolutely. First intro to their whole platform was just kind of like thousands and thousands of lines of code. When I was a first like working in university on student assignments, you write a couple hundred ones per project. Then you get to like the really big ones that have maybe 1,000 or a couple thousand. You're like, oof, this is a big deal. But going to a production platform, public ready, everything, to seeing that was huge. And then also just the different things that their software at the time could do. So you had to learn about their API scanning tools and their security module, the whole searching of their whole knowledge base, and even the things that I had built, which were the wrappers or the plugins for the code editors. So that was just the sheer versatility of what TeejLab offered. Uh, that was really cool. It was also a little bit overwhelming for an intern, but after a while, the team was helpful in getting me, uh, you know, getting a grip on the ropes of how to handle the beast. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Their different software and learning what each of the things did.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah. When I joined, I was overwhelmed too. I'm like, first I had no idea what APIs were, and then like looking their platform, like they're just a billions of years ahead from me. They're like light years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I can 100% share the feeling.
Yeah. Well, I really like going from not knowing any APIs. There's like no APIs in the world. That's not a thing that was in my brain. To all of a sudden seeing uh, all of these APIs listed, like over, I don't even know what they have now, like way over like 5,000 or whatever at the time. And then like I think part of the software was a map that you could see the geolocation of where all
Hmm.
the APIs were being called. So that was one cool security thing you could see if your data was going outside of Canada and stuff. But it was just really cool seeing where APIs are being hosted, where they're getting called from. And that was just really cool. It was like a global picture of the use of APIs. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I think at least for someone just learning about what APIs were, that was really, really cool and super useful.
100%. So let me, excuse me, interesting. So let me ask you this: like, what was your favorite tool out of this whole Teach Labs API lifecycle management? this whole cycle
Mhm.
we have. What is your favorite tool and like why type thing?
So my favorite tool, it's probably going to be the one that I just kind of reference back. I'm not sure if it's a specific tool. It's not like the security module or anything, but it's the one that tracks the health of the APIs.
Hmm.
So you get like the full kind of like information. You get the name, the location, the health, the security risk, you get the legal stuff. And then you can also dive in and get like the key points of any of the documentation for like the privacy and terms of service. So it's just that listing on each of the APIs. I think that was super useful. If I was ever a person looking for APIs, that's the sort of thing I would like to see.
Hmm.
So I think that kind of management or monitoring of APIs while in their current state, I think that was super cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, like even for me, right? Like when I'm working, it's important. Let's say wherever I work, right? It's important, especially in Canada, based on the policies we have, like, or even in America or Europe, where there is like these HIPAA and all those
Mm-hmm.
policies out there. I think TeejLab has done this fantastic job and like has been future thinking and visionaries to know where the APIs are and what are the terms of service and putting that in easy words so developers don't have to waste hundreds or thousands of their hours just to understand the jargons.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
jargon, have to go through it, fine
yeah.
tooth comb. I'm not anywhere near a lawyer or anything like that, so I don't know all that stuff very
Same
much.
for
So,
me.
so for like a quick glance at that, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, 100%. Same for me. It's like when I see it, I'm like, huh, this could be at least 30, 40, 50 hours of my time, which could have been wasted, zero progress, but like it's done in 10 minutes. That's awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so maybe this is another favorite question of mine is like any words of wisdom, like what would you like to tell prospect students or like interns or employees that could interact with TeachLab or will be joining our TeachLab family?
Hmm. So this is something I've learned kind of just in my journey as a developer, and it's write things down. So that the formal word for that would, I guess, would be documentation. But when you're researching something or you're developing something or you're creating something, all of the above, it's in your brain. But if you set aside your code or you set aside your project and you come back to it a month later, you're probably going to forget what you were doing. So it's been times when I've had to reset up my dev environment. So let's say I needed to install some software packages or reset up an IDE, not idea, or set up your preferences. And so just having a list of the steps that you did beforehand, so you can recreate that easily or redo that easily. Or if for some reason, let's say you have your software, if you're supporting a particular module, say a TeejLab, for me, if I was working on my plugins, if I was away sick for like a week, long-term disability or something, if I had that documentation available for other people, then they could pick up and work on my things if they needed patching or anything like that. So writing things down, it also helps, solidify it a little bit more concretely in your brain. So that's just something I've picked up as
Mhm.
I've, grown as a developer. I'm not sure if it's obvious to others or if it's super useful, but that's my secret for myself at least.
Nice. That's a great one. Yeah, documentation is so important. So that's amazing. Thank you so much, Jacob, for joining us today and with the words of wisdom and sharing your experience with us.
No problem. Happy to, enlighten and share my experience.
Thank you. And hope to see you soon with a lot more questions from the community.
Absolutely.
That's
Cheers.
awesome. Cheers.